Alright, today I want to talk about this game. Right here, Dragon Quest. I've talked about it before. I'm going to talk about it again because it's essential to the journey we're going to be talking about today. What are we going to be talking about? Well, we're talking about my game, Star Drinker, and why I wanted to create it in the first place. Here's the first thing you got to know about Star Drinker and about game design. Every game is based off another game. Now this goes down to like, you know, the game of basically when it comes to tabletop games. But you can use this for, you know, Knives in the Dark, which is just a D6 game. You could say any of those D6 games are the same, really. Most of them use narrative dice, and so on and so forth. There's tons of D20 likes. For instance, a D20 like that's a lot like D&D, but not would be Pathfinder or Starfinder. Now, I know about most of these games. I read almost everything I can get my hands on because initially, before I started creating Star Drinker, I was trying to fix this game, Dragon Quest. Now, why was I trying to fix it? Well, I've been playing it since I'm 6 years old. Since I was, not am. Yeah, I am 6 years old. And I have been obsessed ever since. I mean, look at the art here. Wouldn't a 6-year-old just love that? No, but I did. But the reason why I've always loved this game over the others is because there's no skill system. I don't know if you know, or well, there's no class system. It is a skill system. I don't know if you noticed, but we're going through character creation here, and you immediately get into combat and weapons and magic and all this stuff, but really, there's no classes. Now you have stuff like, for instance here, let's go to skills. Sorry, it's been a while since I've actually opened this book. So you have things like assassin, mechanician, navigator, military scientist, merchant, all these different skills, right? And that was actually one of the problems that I'd like to address, but it's actually good because what it does is it diversifies your character. Instead of, you know, you playing a paladin, right? You could make the same thing, but much more complex, much more fleshed out, and with very specific specificity, right? So let's say you wanted your paladin to be the best astrologer ever. You'd have to spend all that experience, right? But they would be, you know? One of the highlights of this game was also the melee combat. It's much better, in my opinion at least, and I think most people's, once they try it. The combat in general feels much better in Dragon Quest instead of D&D because the dice are low. They don't swing nearly as much as they would in D&D. Why is this? Well, let me pull out some D10s here. I don't know if you noticed, but literally all I have in this dice bag are D10s because that's all I ever need. Let's see. I like this one. These ones are nice. Cool green looking dice. Okay. So, let's say we were in melee combat and fighting to the death. How does combat work in Dragon Quest and in Star Drinker? Because I took a lot of inspiration from this game. Well, let's see. Let's go here. Back to the... Let's find it. No, yes. Well, that's the Grievous and Groot table. We're going to need that in a moment here. Here it is. Let's experience. on the same chart? I believe so. Where is the weapons table? It's been so long. I think it's right here. Yes. Okay. So, what made combat so great? Well, if you were to look here, you're able to see the damage modifier of all these weapons. So for instance, javelin +2, spear +3, giant spear +7. What does that mean? Well, that means when I am rolling to strike, well, let's say I hit, right? I roll my die, I got a 9, so that means 9. And let's say I'm using a giant spear +7, I dealt 16 damage. Easy as that. You know, no rolling a big, nobody's ever doing this at the table. And hold on, I got 5, 10, 10, 3. No, none of that ever. No, it's not happening. You roll 1, I got a 10. How much more damage did I deal? I'm using the giant spear, right? 17 damage. Done. That's it. Now, why is that so good? One, because you're not sitting there calculating a fucking equation trying to figure out what you're trying to do to someone in this game ever. The only equation you ever really have to figure out that's even slightly complicated is your strike chance. Now, your strike chance isn't even that hard, and it's very, very easy to understand. I don't understand how people don't get this. There's really I don't think anyone's ever not understood this game to its fullest potential. So, your base chance, right? That's your base strike chance. So let's say I'm using a giant spear again, 55%. Okay, so I have a 55% strike chance, right? Now that's if I've never even used a weapon. I don't know. I don't even know what the weapon is. I'm just picking it up and swinging it. Let's see. So if I have a 55% base chance, that means that's the amount of strike chance I have to hit pretty much anything. Now, not really, because that's reduced by their defense, but essentially all you need to know is that base chance, as of right now, that base chance is 55%. So if I was to swing at you, I rolled an 8. Now that's a really good roll. You want to roll low in this game. You never want to roll high. You always want to roll low. Unless you're dealing damage. If you're dealing damage, you want to roll high. But an 8, is that underneath 55? It is. I hit you. That's pretty much it. Now, it gets a little complicated when someone has defense, and pretty much everybody has defense. Defense is just your agility stat. There are 6 primary stats in Dragon Quest. There's physical, strength, or PS. There is manual, dexterity, which is MD. There is agility, which is AG. And that's another huge thing for me right there, these 2 skills. That was another big definer for me as a child. Because you watch stuff like, for instance, let's say one of the worst examples actually is probably Legolas, because Legolas is very agile and very dexterous. Legolas is he's got both of those things, right? He's never seen fumbling for himself ever, whether it's firing a bow or avoiding an arrow, right? But that's the thing. There are people, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that you know in your real life that are either very dexterous and not very agile, or very agile and very dexterous. Because agility is different than dexterity. For instance, most dwarves, when you think of them, are probably very dexterous. And what I mean by that is that they're very good with their fingers, right? That's all that manual dexterity means, is that you're in tune with your motor functions. Your cognitive ability is keen, right? And the difference there is you can be very quick to react to something, which would be agility, right? Or you could be very, very precise in how you react to that thing. They're 2 different things, right? So, for now, these are really the only 3 we need to know for this particular experiment here, for combat and for melee combat in and of itself. When I say melee, I even mean range to some degree, but not spellcasting, right? Is that these 3 stats are really what matters in melee combat. And again, For base chance, you're doing your base chance 55% to see if you hit that person. 34, I hit you, right? But your agility determines your defense. Okay, that's one of those primary stats, just like in D&D where you have your attributes there, where it's like strength, intelligence, wisdom, etc., etc. Those few there, that's what these would be. And there's more, right? There's MA or magical aptitude. MA. Then you have willpower. We're just going to go through them here real quick. WP. And then you have so there's one more. It's physical strength, mental dexterity, agility, magical aptitude, willpower, and I don't know why, but these always trip me up. It's so endurance. Endurance. And I never remember endurance because I changed what it is now. It's something else in my game. It's not the same in this one, but essentially those are your 6 primary stats there, right? Now you notice there's no intelligence stat. That's another reason why I like this game so much more than the others. Intelligence, I feel, is really dumb. Just as a mechanic, I think, because it's like, how is a stupid person ever going to roleplay a genius? They can't. They literally just cannot. And you could say that, there's checks that you could make and there's all this different stuff, but mechanically, I just don't think that it's very good for roleplay for someone to have an intelligence stat on their character. And we can get into more and more reasons as to why I feel, the skill system functions as a better intelligence system than the intelligence system, because there are people who are very, very skilled in specific things outside of, certain people are smart at certain things and not so smart at others, but they may be incredibly intelligent beyond your wildest dreams at things that you wouldn't even know, right? And I think that that's a much better representation of what intelligence actually is than the intelligence stat in most TTRPGs. Now, back to our stat analogy here for combat. Okay, so you got those 6. Now we're gonna make a quick character here. It's gonna take 5 seconds. PS, MD, AG, WP, MA, and EN. Now I put EN over here because EN is health. And you'd have FT2, and that's from your EN. There's a few different stats like that too, like TMR, how fast you move. That's a huge one too. And how fast you move comes from your agility. Instead of, in most games like D&D or something like that, when you pick your species, that's your movement speed, which I find really strange. Like it's just really weird. It's like saying, okay, you're a dwarf, so you must be slow. Like what? And it's not even slow necessarily, because but regardless, I just think it's really stupid to tie movement speed towards your species or your race. I think that's really weird and arbitrary. I think it's much better. I think it's probably an artifact from, maybe 1st edition or 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons, which makes much more sense. But it just makes more sense to have an agility stat and then have your movement speed come from your agility. And then again, too, you'd have another stat from your agility be your defense. And that's pretty much 1-to-1 unless you're wearing armor of specific types. That's another thing we're going to get into and why I like this game much more than D&D. But these 6 stats right here they all cost primary points. Now, in Dragon Quest proper, you would roll for that right here. Can't believe I got it in the first try. I know I haven't used this book in ages. I look like an idiot fumbling through it, but here we go. Let's roll. I got 89. Now you take 8 and 9, you put them together. What do you get? You get, it's not 19, it'd be like, 17 around there or something like that? 8, see, now I'm not good at math. It'd be 17. So 17, that means I have 95 points. We're just going to make it easy. We're going to say I got 90. 90 divided by 6, I believe, is like 14 or 15 across the board. I literally can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not going to lie to you, but it is something like that. We're going to say it's 15. We're just going to put 15 in all these stats here. And again, we would be much more,
we would be much more practical and smart about how we did this if we were really making character, but this is just for the sake of the argument and for the sake of the experiment here. So 15 agility would mean that you have 15 defense, and let's see how much movement speed, just for fun, let's see how much movement speed you get from 15. You got 5, so that means you're moving 5 on the board, TMR, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could go 5 of these hexes wherever you want to go, each is 1 inch. Yeah, so you'd have what? You'd have 15 agility, which means you got 15 defense. So let's go back to that analogy earlier. We were talking about the giant spear, which has a strike chance of 55%. So 55% means that, let's see, I roll a 28. So you would take 55 minus 15, come to an easy 40, right? That means I have a 40% strike chance. Did I roll under 40? I did. I rolled a 28. I hit you. Now, it seems complex, but really, it's so much easier than that, right? Because as a DM, you're going to know your players' defense, right? You're going to know their agility. So you're going to have everybody's agility mapped out in your head, right? And it's really easy at a certain point because you'll know rough averages, right? From how fast their character is, et cetera, et cetera. You'll just get good at remembering their stats. And it'll become easy too to know their strike chances, right? Because you're going to remember how skilled they are with their weapon. That's another thing we're going to get into right now too. So your base chance is your base chance. It's called base chance for a reason because that's where it starts out, right? It starts out at 55%, but it goes up. What it goes up by is, let's say, we got some experience, right? Let's say that our DM said, oh, you guys got 2,000 experience to start your characters with, and so many copper fendings or whatever. Come on, here we go. So let's say we got 2,000 experience. We're going to spend it all on spear because we are a fucking madman who loves the giant spear. That's what we want to do. We want to stab people with our giant spear. Okay, so giant spear is right over here. I don't know if you can see it. Here, I'm moving it into the shot here. Giant spear, 100, 100, 100, or 100, 100, 200, 400, 700, 1800. So you'd spend all that experience. What I mean by all that is you'd go, let's flip to another random one here. You would go 100 plus 100, so 200 plus 200, 400, then another 700. So that's what? That's 6. My brain's real bad. Plus, so it'd be 1,500 plus another. If you wanted to, we'd have another 1,800, but we can't afford that. So we end up at rank 4. Rank 4 in Giant Spear, near on our character sheet, we would put R4. It'd be Spear / Giant Spear, so we could just write Spear, rank 4 Spear. Go back. It's 4% per rank. 4% per rank, so we got 55 plus 4, or 4% times 4. 4% times 4 is 12, so that's 55 plus 12. We're going to get to a 60, would it be 67? It would be 67 per moment, but then you add your MD because you're rank 0. At rank 0, you add your mana dexterity, so that's 55 plus 15. We're going to do that first. 55 plus 15, that makes it 60, 70, so it'll be 82, I believe 82%. 82%, so you get 82% strike chance. Again, so now that you're ranked up, we're trying to hit the same guy. You got 82 minus 15. I don't even know what that is, but I know it's you know what, like 68 or something like that. Roll. It's underneath 68. I hit. That easy, right? It's very, very fast paced, very quick, very easy. Now, another cool thing that I love about this game is if you roll something like, not that. let's fudge the dice here. We're the game master. We're the DM. We can do that. Some tables don't like that, but we're doing it anyways. Let's say you roll this. You rolled a 1, right? Now you want to roll low. So 1 is the best thing you possibly get. Here's the thing. When you do that, you roll on this table right here. This bad boy. 81. So we don't have a crushing weapon, but let's say for this instance we do. Today we're going to be using a Great Axe. Great Axe is plus 10 damage. Oh, no, that's a giant axe. Plus 6 damage. I was going to say, I knew plus 10 was too much. We rolled an 81, so that means that we did... A crushing blow smashes tissues and produces internal injuries. You suffer 2 damage points immediately to endurance and 1 per pulse thereafter to fatigue. So, okay, so we hit this guy. Now remember, average stats are like around 15. We hit this guy for already 6 damage, right? Direct to his endurance, right? So that's 6 damage plus what? Plus 2 already, so that's 6, 7. And then you roll the die. You roll a 7, so that's 7 plus 7, that's 14. You hit him for 14 direct, and he's going to keep taking damage after that. So that guy's basically dead, and you just completely obliterated his chest cavity. He's, like, done. That is what's so much fun about this game. It is brutal. The health is low, and because the health is low and the damage numbers are all low, it makes combat absolutely fucking vicious. People are dropping in a matter of seconds instead of like these really boring slugfests that most other RPGs become, especially at later levels. At later levels in Dragon Quest, it's much more tense actually than it would be in much earlier levels. And you might think, you know, most people who haven't played tabletop RPGs to the extent as like a veteran would think that the higher level encounters would be more difficult. Well, they're not. They're actually much easier. And that's because your players are just so much stronger. And a good DM can, you know, find ways to play against that and do better than what's expected of them normally. But I find at most tables, and especially in like league play, for instance, the expectation is that higher level play is just a joke. Why is this? Because of HP bloat, because of ability bloat, because everybody's becoming so absolutely astronomically powerful in these games that the GM just can't keep up with the amount of abilities that the players get so early on. The monsters are never really scary unless the DM is doing a really, really good job at doing that. And I find that especially with let's say, for instance, let's use a really prime example here. A party of level 20 characters fighting a party of goblins, level like 5 goblins. That is going to be a slaughter. They are not going to stand a chance. That the party is just going to wipe the floor with them. Sure, as a GM, you could put down a million traps and do a really cool encounter that you thought of that, oh, I know for a fact, like a party level 1 goblins could take on a party of level 20. Whatever, dude. Cool. That's not the point. The point is that the goblins have so many hit points. The players have so many hit points. The goblins only deal so much damage. The players deal a shitload of damage. They're not going to stand a chance normally, right? In this game, every encounter, it does not matter if you're fighting the hardest thing in the world or something small. You are putting your life on the line in 99% of cases. Now, there's ways to, you know, make that easier on yourself. But for the most part, it's really, really scary every time you're in an engagement, and that's what makes it fun. Now, another cool thing about this game, instead of the whole agility and dexterity differential right here, see how these two are different, this one and this one. Another cool thing about this game is that the armor is different as well. So, okay, in Dungeons & Dragons and most tabletop RPGs, your armor does, it increases your defense. So let's say you bought full plate, right? Plate. So we got a full plate and a giant spear. We're kind of a badass. Full plate gives a protection of 7. So that's 7 protection, but it gives an agility penalty of 3. -3 agility. So that would mean that your defense would now become, what? It would become 12. You have 12% defense now, so that's rather low, as we know. And you'd have a damage reduction of 7. Now, that damage reduction of 7 is good, and that's all well and fantastic when you get hit for a normal blow, right? Let's say you get swung, that's a miss. They swing, so we're fighting a clone of ourselves in this instance. They swing, 34, that's a hit. 7 damage. 7 plus 7, I believe the Giant Spirit Dealt is going to be another 14, right? Now that will go to your fatigue first or whatever. Let's say you got, I know that that's not the right number, but let's say it's 20. That will go to your fatigue first. But under normal circumstances, as long as it's a regular swing, that's going to get subtracted from your damage reduction. So 7 plus 7 is 14. Then you minus 7. That's only 7 damage to your fatigue. So now you would have, what, 13 fatigue? And one of the reasons why this game is so deadly is because, again, those really low rolls, if I roll a 7, and I roll again, or even if I don't, roll on the Grooves table or whatever, it's going to go direct to your endurance. So it obfuscates all of that, all of your fatigue. Ooh, when you see that, So it obfuscates all of your fatigue, and it would go right to your endurance. So you'd be taking 17 to your endurance, and that would effectively kill you. And that's what's so absolutely disgusting about this game's combat system. Not to mention, the Grievous table, where some of the stuff you can get on that, it illustrates it not much better than, what you could do or what I could do or what anybody could do. But what it does more than anything is it explains what happened when you did that critical hit. So one of the things that I don't like about D&D is you do a crit. Oh, what happens? Double damage or triple damage or whatever the hell your system does in particular, right? Whatever your tabletop RPG system does. That makes it really boring. It's like, oh, wow, man, double damage. That's so cool. It's not that cool for somebody who cares about the narrative, but what is cool is, let's say I rolled a 92 on the Grievous Injury table, right? 92. Okay, what happens? Let's so I'm in the heat of battle, I roll a crit, and then who the hell knows what's going to happen when I roll these dice, right? It could be anything. It could be a 24. What's the 24? 24 goes to a chest wound. Take 2 damage points immediately into your endurance, and the attacker's weapon is caught in your rib cage. Like, that is so dynamic and interesting and much more visceral than, yeah, you deal double damage. It's just, it's a lot. It's like, I don't know, every time I play at a table where we don't use some sort of crazy table for injuries, I'm just bored, man. Critical hits just don't do it for me. There's something, for instance, let's go back to 92. Your right hip is smashed horribly. Take 5 damage points immediately to endurance and fall prone. You are unable to walk until the damage is healed. It takes 6 months. It's just visceral. You can stab somebody in the eye and then through to their brain. You can stab somebody in the groin. You can slash their face open, their ribs, you can hamstring them. You can there is just wild variety and lots of fun for a game that came out when, I think, late 80s, I think, early 90s maybe. It is, 1980. Yeah, 1980, 1981. What a beautiful, beautiful game this was. And I tried to fix it for so long, and eventually what I had looked nothing like this game. It was completely different, and we'd get to Magic at a different time. But I just wanted to go over melee combat, how that works in this game, and how it will work in Star Drinker. And obviously there's going to be some changes, and we'll go over that again later. I guess thanks for watching. It was nice. I really appreciate it. And that's it.